Welcome to Studio C on this beautiful start of the week, Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. We're there in Studio C at the beautiful KYOS Radio Merced headquarters at 1020 West Main. We have Steve Colvard, the best engineer in AM radio, in studio there, working the controls, helping us co-host, and of course Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, a little tardy, but at least he showed up. And I'm Casey Steed, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, soon to be back in studio, folks, so you'll hear the melodic sounds and a lot better sound quality here soon. But I just want to encourage people, if you miss any of our shows, you can go to YouTube, type in any of our names in the search bar, Casey Steed, Steve Colvard, Robert Tomasetti. Don't put in the Velvet Sledgehammer, because you'll be surprised what comes up. But or you can just type in KYOS space 1480 AM, and you'll hear all of our past shows. Just to let you know, we're up over 1,400 hits, and we've only been on
now I know what you do in your
over 2 months.
Now I know what you do in your spare time when you have nothing to do in Oklahoma and it's freezing.
That's right. I just go to YouTube and keep hitting it. No, I very rarely listen to the show since I participate in them. Two of them I like to hear. One thing we're going to redo is our Thursday show. We had a Dragnet theme that we brought the show in with, and a lot of times, folks, just to let you know why we don't play AC/DC or the outgoing songs on our YouTube audios is that there's copyright laws, and YouTube is very particular about folks putting other people's music and copyrighted material on, and they'll kick you off of YouTube. We have to fill out a waiver that says we're not doing this for profit, and as Steve can tell you, there's no money in AM radio, so we're not doing this for profit. We're doing it for the love of the community. But I do want to reload Thursday's show, May 6th, because it did have some impact having that theme. So
yeah, we had some response from that too. We had I've been contacted by a couple different people that want to respond to that show. So, well,
I can't wait. And again, we always encourage people, if you have differing, divergent opinions, even if you agree with us, get a hold of Steve down there at the station. You can call Radio Merced. You can call in.
Can they call the tip line?
They can call the tip line, and let me give that number out. Thank you, Steve. That's 209-406-8728. That's 24 hours a day. If you can send a text, if you want to remain anonymous, a phone message, whatever you want, cut letters out of a magazine, paste them on a piece of paper. You can send them to the station at 1020 West Main, Merced, California, 95340. We'll get them. We've got a lot of good tips. We're going to be reporting on some very, very hard-hitting issues in the next couple of weeks, folks, that we've been ferreting out. But I just would encourage everybody to keep listening, and if you have an opinion, if you don't agree with what we say, let's talk about it. We have the campaign season, the filing deadline for all of the politicals ended last Friday, March 7th. We know who the fields are going to be. Some people are running unopposed. Unfortunately, Jerry O'Banion, nobody's decided to take him on for his sixth term, folks. 6 times in the saddle.
That's 24 years.
Just unbelievable.
24 years. Same dude in the same spot for 24 years. And no one seems to be happy with the direction we're going in, yet no one challenges.
Nobody stands up. Sometimes we feel like we're a lone voice in a hurricane, but I really do think we're making a difference. And I'll tell you, folks, if it wasn't for Steve Colvard being down there and volunteering his time, and I truly mean volunteering, he may get a certain number of hours a week, but he puts in a lot more. To do these shows, you have to think about it. It's almost a full-time gig. And I would just like to think that the community will step up at some point, and hopefully we've got some traction that way in the couple of years now that we've been on the air. I'm on my 3rd legal pad, so I know that we've had a lot of shows because I fill them up.
Well, we have an election coming up here in June. That'll be the first step.
Yes, it will. It will, and we're going to have the politicos on. I've already talked to management. They want our show to be the forum to bring in the different folks. Of course, we have congressmen. We saw where John not Pedroza. I'm sorry. I guess he was on the steps with Costa. Jim Costa is running for re-election. Of course, Adam Gray is running unopposed. And my question is, Is there nobody out there that wants to challenge the Democrats, or is everybody just so disgusted they don't want to show up?
Can I ask you a question, though? Did you have a chance to watch any of that CPAC, Conservative Political Action Committee stuff this weekend?
I read some about it. The Democrats had their dog and pony show up in Sacramento, too. I read a lot about it also, but no, I didn't see a lot about CPAC.
My overwhelming sense there was, wow. I mean, no wonder the Democrats are ruling the roost right now.
Yeah.
I mean, so uninspiring and just, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what happened to the Republican Party, man. Just crazy. They almost need to.
Even the Democrats are declining enrollment.
Yeah,
many people signing up. I really think what it is the independents are Democrats in sheep's clothing. I think they don't want to be associated with the party, so you have a lot of people running as independents.
It's the lesser of two evils for sure. It's the lesser of two evils, and there's a lot of. I mean, there's really not that big of a difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. I think. There's somebody was on the other day. I can't remember who it was that said it's time. I think it was Professor Gargano, saying it's time for a second party, not a third party, a second party. Because the Democrats and Republicans are pretty much interchangeable. They do the bidding of their special interest groups, and I don't know. I want to see a figure on the national level that's inspiring to me, and I'm just craving that, and I just don't see it. I look at the people that were at that CPAC convention, and I'm just like, holy moly! I mean, gee, many Christmas are those really our options?
Equally as disappointing. They're coming out for the legalization of marijuana. They are aligning themselves with that, and they're coming out against fracking. And they don't believe in private property rights where we can become energy independent. I kind of disagree with that. I'm not saying there shouldn't be regulations, but I think we need to explore our options. I read a very interesting article about the Prius and how that, it's a hybrid automobile. It has a gas engine and an electric motor. And what it costs you to operate that per mile is about 4 times what it costs to run a combustion engine. The vehicle costs about twice as much. And this is the direction people are heading us in. And I think that we need to use common sense, use available technologies, and not just discount what we already have.
Well, it's all about emissions control, correct? It's an environmental issue.
It's about carbon. Every living thing is made of carbon. Yep. And the Democrats want to tax carbon, and I think there's a lot of hot air that should be taxed up there in Sacramento. Is Robert still with us?
He is. He's reading.
Waiting for you to take a damn breath.
He's reading his paper, highlighting. He's got some stuff, though. I can tell you, he's got his highlighter out.
No, go ahead, Case.
He's got his highlighter out. The paper is like half yellow right now. So
Casey's like Superman.
What is your opinion, stronger. Robert? Did you watch any of the CPAC? Do you follow the?
I don't really care.
Yeah, you just tapped out. And you're not really.
No, it's not tapped out. I think the Republicans are dumbasses. I really do.
Yeah.
You see, look, way back yonder. In the thrilling days of yesteryear, what happened was a political party found the guy. Steve, you're my man. Okay, you're the voice of us. You're the face of us. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to go out there and we want you to run. Okay, but Steve, don't be surprised if you get your butt handed to you the first time out of the blocks or even the second. We're still behind you. They don't do that anymore. Now, if you get beat and you don't get beat, but if you get beat and you get beat by a huge margin, you're off the ticket and we'll find someone else. Well, what kind of continuity does that create? None. Also, the Republicans have this bad habit of having the Christian right dictate. It's like the tail wagging a dog. Abortion always becomes an issue. It's the law. Let's move on. Let's look at economy. Let's look at Obama. Let's look at the presidency. Let's do that. But what you have is 5 different mouthpieces. You don't know if it's coming from Rand Paul, Ted Cruz. Who's it coming from? They don't take one person and say, let's go. It's fragmented. It's the same thing as the Tea Party. They're fragmented.
So the Democratic Party almost wins by default.
Democratic wins. Well, here's the thing. Everybody loves Santa Claus. Okay? So you go out to, you go over here to the senior center and you're a Democrat and you're talking to 50 seniors and you say, that's Steve Colvard, the Republican, says that we've got to cut your benefits. There goes 60 votes. Bam, you're done. How in the world can you overcome it? Everybody loves Santa Claus. That's why if you look at the roles and the swelling and the big government gets bigger and bigger because that's what the Democrats play. I will give you. So
the Democrats are the Santa Claus party?
You don't think?
Would you agree with that case?
Oh, yeah. No, I think the when you have more people on the dole and you have more people getting from government than contributing to government, who are you going to vote for? Which side is your bread buttered on? And this is where I see an erosion of our personal property rights. You have less and less people that own personal property, and you have more burdens being placed on the people that do.
And the people that do get killed.
Or once that balance falls, then we're really sunk. And I think that's one of the basic tenets of our government. You know, Robert, you mentioned that Costa was in the paper on the courthouse steps. Was Josh Pedroso in that picture?
I think he was. I'm not sure. The one that I saw was on my phone, and it was a post by Josh in his Facebook. Okay, but Costa starts Congress re-election bid. Only shows Jim there with 3 signs. Jim Costa for Congress. And I find it interesting that we are not his largest area of constituency. It would be Fresno, and yet he starts his bid here in Merced.
Yeah, and the Teixeira, the guy running against him, is that his last name?
Yeah.
He had said he was on the Tea Party Straight Talk. And can I make a quick programming note real quick, not to distract from it? But we tried something a little bit different this weekend on the Tea Party Straight Talk, and it kind of crashed and burned. So I just want to let the listeners know that won't happen again.
You apologizing again for your ineptitude?
Well, we tried to rewire some stuff, to do some stuff on top of some stuff, but it didn't work. So we'll be back to our normal protocol this weekend, so I apologize for that. But real quick, Teixeira came on to the Tea Party and said that Merced County is going to be the battleground for who becomes the next representative here.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think that he's here because, well, first of all, you look at Mel Levy, he's from here. Okay, so Mel's going to get us.
And he's also running against Costa?
Exactly. Mel is the Republican, one of the Republican candidates. And see, excuse me, that's why Jim Costa has such an advantage. Jim Costa sits here and plays games. Okay, and what I mean by that is he's got money in his coffers. He goes about his business. He doesn't have to worry about running against anybody until the primaries are over. So you get Johnny Teixeira.
Yeah.
You get Mel Levy, and you get the young lady from Chowchilla, and they're all going to beat up each other. And the survivors
spend their money.
Spend their money.
Right.
Try to differentiate themselves from the rest of the candidates. But then what happens is, then the fight begins in July. Because they take 2 weeks off, and then it's, okay, now I got to go after Jim Costa. Well, I mean, that's kind of tough. First of all, you got to beat 2 people. Then, meanwhile, Jim just goes about life, and that's why an incumbent is hard to beat. Right, Case?
Well, it is, and I think that it's like Governor Brown. He has Neil Kashari, I forget how you say his name, and Tim Donnelly. I think they're very weak candidates, and Governor Brown is sitting in the catbird seat. He could literally phone it in, and you're going to have this bloodbath between the 2 Republicans, and for what? So it's very, very disappointing.
Right.
I would just encourage people to turn out and vote.
Excuse me.
I don't know. I just think that the Republican Party has to start all over. I mean,
well, what they do,
the powers that be are obviously not preaching that because they're still benefiting from the system. Well, it's not necessarily true because now you look at Stanislaus County. Now, Stanislaus County was predominantly Democrat. Sal Cannella was a Democrat. Okay, the state senator was a Democrat. And then what happened was they found a sliver of hope, and the Republicans came in with some money, and they took the day. And now Stanislaus County, you got Anthony Cannella, the senator from Ceres, is a Republican. You've got the other guy up there who's the assemblyman. He's a Republican. I mean, the situation when you look at Stanislaus County is it's about business, okay? And I don't think Stanislaus County has the welfare and the social programs that we do. Yeah. And let's be honest, if you are on social programming, right? Well, but look at the gubernatorial issue here in California. You got Jerry Brown he's going to skate in, and then you've got Gavin Newsom who's going to throw his hat in the ring next, and who's going to beat him? I mean, the Democrats. I mean, the Republican Party in the state of California, to me, has become irrelevant.
Exactly, but you just made my point. Excuse me. I got a horse for some reason. Anyways.
It's almost time to take a commercial break.
Well, real quick, just remember what you just said. You said that the governor is going to ride into and then who's next?
Gavin Newsom.
See, they already have their successor in place. It's the same thing when Kathleen Galgiani was terming out and he had Adam Gray ready to go. Now, Adam Gray is going to term out. I'm sure they're going to put somebody right behind him. They're going to beget somebody, Ryan Heller or someone like that. But the point of the matter is where is the Republican candidate? He is at home, probably still in bed sleeping because we have no clue who it is.
I know. That's my point. No. I mean, but how do you get him out of bed?
Because
or her.
You mentioned Galgiani.
Him or her out of bed.
Rod Wright and Calderon, who are on leave, and the Republicans in the Senate tried again to have them kicked out. And guess who had joined with the Republicans? Galgiani and another senator from a very contentious district, a swing district. They joined the Republicans because they can read the handwriting on the wall. Not all is lost. California is very conservative in its thinking. Unfortunately, its voting doesn't show that.
Yeah.
So,
well,
there is some hope there, and they do know the difference between right or wrong. But when they have this supermajority, they walk all over us.
Absolutely, and I think they win more by default than by merit, and that's just my personal opinion.
They do. When is
right.
that?
I think we slipped the noose this time on Proposition 13 by Calderon and Rod Wright committing their felonious activity.
Felonious.
We've taken away
Salacious.
the supermajority where they can't attack our property taxes this year. This time.
Yeah, property's next.
It's not going to happen next time.
So property's next. The state of California is going to start coming after your property.
Well, here's
That's next.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Hey, we got to take a quick break.
Go ahead.
Case, you want to take us out?
Hey, stay tuned for the second segment of Citizen Watch. Robert finally showed up. We'll be right back. Folks, welcome back to Citizen Watch on KYOS, the voice of the Valley, the power of local radio, AM 1480 on your dial. I know you're tuned in and listening to every word, and we appreciate it. Over 1,400 hits on our YouTube audios rather, on YouTube that you can listen to the old shows, and we really appreciate every one of our listeners out there. You're more valuable to us than you know, just like votes at election time. We really appreciate that you're there. You know, one thing that was in the news this week was about background checks at the county and how they do their background checks. And I found it interesting that out of the over 2,000 employees at Merced County, only 52 have to go through background checks. Now, it costs about $52 a piece to put these people through background checks. Stanislaus County, just to the north of us, all 3,900 of their employees for the last 30 years have gone through background checks because they want to know what's going on. Now, Mark Hendrickson over there at, I think he runs the Dog Pound, he says, we got more going right than going wrong.
See that? Now, hold on, Case.
Somehow the other processes have worked more than they have it.
Oh Lord help us. Are we getting back on Hendrickson?
Okay, comment.
Hang on. This is exactly what I said last week. Stupid is as stupid says. Why?
It's the Peter principle with Hendrickson.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Case. It's the same thing with. Here's how you fix this. You ready? How you fix it? Anybody that has anything to do with money, you do a background check. What do I care of what the background is of a janitor? I really don't. Unless he has access to money or valuables. That's what I'm worried about.
He's cleaning up around equipment. You don't think that the janitors sometimes take
That's
a
not
laptop?
what I meant. I was meaning more like lawn maintenance.
I guarantee it happens. Anyway, I just found it interesting that Stanislaus County, all 3,900 of their employees are background checked for the last 30 years.
It's
and here
overkill.
in our county, our dysfunctional county, we can't get it right. And the union position, guess how the unions feel about it? They don't want to do it. There's no need to do it. They say it's insane and a poor use of resources.
You know why they say it?
City of Merced, all of their employees are background checked. And this is the one time that I'm going to agree with Mike Conway. And let me tell you, this doesn't happen often, folks, so make a note of it. March 11th, I agree with Mike Conway. He says, we want to have good representation for the city of Merced, and that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Now, evidently, conversely, that would be the county of Merced doesn't want good reputation.
Yeah.
They want people that have sexual bribery. They want supervisors' daughters in there having a tryst with the public defender. They want people that harbor
Casey, it's safe to say that you're not real happy with the direction the county's going in. What do you got, Robert? What's your
my problem is it's overkill. Okay, let's be honest. You give in an application, they check on two of the people, and they call it a background check. What exactly is a background check? I was in the military, and to get a top secret clearance, it was a background check. So, I mean, calling up two of your friends that you put on there on your resume.
No, but you can run their name through a database for crimes in the state.
But do they? That's the whole point.
No, they don't. They don't.
Casey,
wait. It costs $52. How much money could we have saved by spending $52 up front than spending thousands of dollars on lawsuits? Look at Karen Adams. our illustrious registrar of voters. Look at her, the lawsuits that we've had to pay out because of her foul, sailor-like mouth down there with the employees.
Salacious.
Retaliation, hiring her boyfriend. What did she say in the paper? I like head. I like to give head. Oh, we're going to read it all, folks, now that the field is firmed up. I'll tell you, we could have spent $52 and found out about the boyfriend.
It's in the paper.
No, we decided not to because, like Hendrick said.
Well, but see, I don't know. But Case, can I make this point, please? If we would have ran a background check on someone like that, it probably would have came back clean. She's never probably been convicted of any crimes or anything like that. It's the character of the individuals that we get in there. And how do you run a background check on character? I mean, is it just basically
you know what you do? You know what you do? And they won't allow you to do this. Casey was my former employer, okay? Casey says Robert Tomasetti's unhireable. I didn't like him because he did some things that were, they weren't illegal, but they were unethical, and I had to get rid of them. Okay, that gives it to you. But no, unions and the liberal media and the liberal lawmakers make it so easy for a knucklehead to get any job he wants, okay, because they make it hard to find.
Right, but my issue's more with the other end of that. It's like, I'm all about giving people chances, and I know people make mistakes in life, but once somebody's gotten into a position and you look at the position that they've gotten into and you've gotten no production from it, or they're not doing the job well, it's like pulling teeth to get them out.
What about
that's the part that it's frustrating.
Well,
I'm all about giving people chances, but if they don't take advantage of the chances, then it's next. Next person moves in. It doesn't seem like that's the case.
But here's the point. Karen Adams did say that. It was in the front page of the news, and I thought it was very, very salacious, Casey.
So just for the listeners, we're not making this up. This was actually printed in the newspaper, so don't blame us for just repeating what was public information.
2011, and we're going to bring out all those articles that Mike North, who's now over at the Death Star, wrote. Great series of articles, Mike, by the way.
Great, but here's my point, okay? Why isn't a person like Karen Adams, heave-ho, you got to go?
Exactly my point. That's what I'm saying.
I walked around. I am not an employee.
It's just like Pedroso and his little shenanigans there with Brenda. The only way to get these people out is a recall vote.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
But we have isn't that young lady up for re-election this go round?
Yeah,
Karen Adams.
There's somebody running against her.
So
Robert
there you go. There's our answer.
St. Marie with the sheriff's department.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Every time I try to say something, you jump on there, man. You're like attacking me today. The whole point I'm just trying to say is this. If you are a gentleman or a lady that works at the city or the county, and you handle money or finances in any way, your background check should be a little more extensive than calling your neighbor and asking what kind of a person you are. Okay? That would solve these problems. You look at the people that are playing shenanigans that are in the paper. Tony Thompson handles revenue and reimbursement. The young lady who had DATs in her house and body armor, supposedly, she does what? She handles money. She gives money. If you have those kind of credibility issues, that makes you what? That makes you what'd you call it, Case? I just had it and it's gone.
Well, just to be fair with Tony Thompson, he was one of the 52 that did have a background check on him because he did handle money. And in Miss Adams' defense, or Mrs. Adams, I don't know what it is, don't know her status. Anyway, she has everybody in her office do go through background checks because they do handle money. But I say everybody at the county, you have a liability. If we let Brenda drive a car and kill somebody because she has 8 suspensions on her license, you and I are going to pay for that. I think $52 up front is a cheap expense.
But
it's just part of the hiring practice.
But Casey, again, what is the background check? Calling your neighbors on each side of your house is not a background check.
That's not the kind of background check.
How do we know?
It's a professional background check.
How do we know?
It's better than nothing, Robert. We do nothing now for the balance of the employees. Out of 2,000 employees, we check 52.
Well, personally, I don't care what.
It's certainly an element of it, but my aspect again, I'm going to get back to this, is once the individual has been given the opportunity to have a place of employment with our city or our county, how do they conduct themselves? Are they productive in their position? And where's the supervision? I mean, this guy this Tony guy. I was
going to say that. What happens? Here's a guy who walks around with $300 Stacey Adams shoes, and he drives a Benzo, and he's dressed to the hilt. And I'm thinking, you're making $60 $62,000 a year. How the hell are you affording this?
Yeah.
That's how much
I want to bring up before we beat this to death is the County Volunteer Service Awards. The nominations stop tomorrow, the end of the day, 5 o'clock tomorrow. If anybody wants to nominate anybody in the community that has uplifted the county through their volunteer efforts, they can call Mike North at 385-7682 and nominate somebody, or they can get online and fill out an application.
Do you have a nomination you would like to...
Huh?
Do you have any nominations that you would suggest?
Yeah, I think us. I think the three of us ought to be nominated.
That'll never happen.
John Pedrozo and didn't get a very good response back, but I think that, everything we've done on Citizen Watch, again, we do it for the love of the community. I'd like to see somebody nominate us. It would be pretentious to nominate ourselves, but
I'll nominate
you. There's a lot of people out there that are doing a lot of good things. I don't know. Have you got anybody to nominate, Robert?
How about John Carlisle?
Yeah, he let 1,400 jobs go by because we were worried about trips.
Exactly, and he's worried about HUD money. So I think, John, what we'll do is we're going to have Monica Villa and her group go to your house, park in your backyard, and we'll see what a loving person you are of the homeless after they trash your backyard.
Monica Villa could be one, a volunteer of the year. She's here. She is starting communities out there by the railroad tracks. Hell, even Tony Thompson might be able to get a service award for coming up with alternative payment methods.
No, man. Remember, he's going to take over Chuck Wolvery's spot in the Love Connection.
That's right. Yeah, we'll be back in 2 and 2. But anyway, I just thought that if people, there's one from every district, John, Hub, Jerry, Deidre, Lynn.
Deidre's is going to be interesting.
They all get to nominate somebody from their district that have shown.
I have an.
So I suggested to John Pedrozo that Hub and himself nominate Robert and I.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Moosie the cow.
There you go.
Moosie the cow.
Whose district is Moosie in?
I don't know. He's in every district. What I'd like to know is, why don't we have a report on how well Moosie's doing? Because I heard that Moosie's not at schools anymore, that they've changed their sites, and they're making this up as they go along.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up. Do you think they're keeping relative information in order to determine whether or not it's a success or not? And this is what I would think would be the absolute minimum would be what they've purchased and what they've sold. And, basically how much produce and fresh fruit are they actually getting into the community?
Can I be honest? If it was a worthwhile organization and they were making a ton of money and making a dent, I'm sure I'd have read it on page 1.
Yeah, well, they don't want to make money, but my thing is if they're buying the food from the vendors, going out and trying to sell it and nobody's buying it, and then they're donating it to the food bank, that's
it's only $177,000 a year, Steve. It's a small program that Anna's running over there. I'm sure she has bigger fish to fry. But hey, one thing I know we're coming up probably close to our second break, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the Mariposa Farm Bureau. They're going to have a pork rib dinner March 22nd up there at Golden Stag Hall in Hornitos. I would encourage people to attend that. One thing that I read in the paper. How much time we got in this segment, Steve?
We got about 2 minutes.
One thing I read about in the paper was the Livingston fireworks booth, talking about volunteers and people trying to raise money. Very interesting up there. They have 5 fireworks booths a year. 2 are going to be picked by the city council. 3 are going to be picked by a lottery. Now, Jim Soria, who's on the Livingston youth football team, he's a coach for the group. His daughter's a cheerleader. He also sits on the city council. He's already made it clear that he wants the Livingston youth football to have one of these booths for 2 years in a row due to one of the coaches dying because he feels they need to get a little hands up. Is this fairness? I don't think so.
No.
I think this is just like the county supervisors that rep the city. It's cronyism. It's political patronage. The power needs to go to the people, not the politicians. All 5 of those fireworks booths should be by lottery. Let the luck of the draw. There's a lot of people. Those fireworks booths are like literally a license to print money. And you should allow anybody that wants to have one, a service organization, a volunteer organization, put their hat in the ring. To have 2 people from the city council picking them, or the city council picking 2 of those participants is wrong. And this is what leads to cronyism. This is what leads to the good old boy system. And Jim Soria, who's also running for sheriff, well, I don't like that, Mr. Soria. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, but you know what? Doesn't he shoot himself in the foot? Because I'm telling you, if I was Vern Warnke or Frank Swigert, I'd bring that up and put it in his face every day that I'm running, because that just shows that you're part of that good old boy network. That's daughter exactly is a cheerleader, right, and I think that we need.
That's exactly right.
Except
when
he's Portuguese.
When you're a coach for the group and your daughter's over there, shuffling the pom-poms, it's even more, you have to have an arm's length relationship. And this is what we want to see change in this county. And I'm disappointed in the city of Livingston and their city council for allowing this to happen.
When you have a dog in the fight.
It's almost egregious as what's going on with Measure H over in Atwater.
Yeah, well, tell us about it.
When you have an interest in something, you should recuse yourself from it.
That's exactly right, Steve.
Yep, it's time to take our second break, buddy.
Well, hey, folks, stay tuned. I know this is a fast-paced show. We could do 5 shows a week, and who knows, someday we may. But stay tuned for our third and final segment on Citizen Watch, AM 1480 KYOS. Hey, folks, welcome to the third and final segment of Citizen Watch on this beautiful Tuesday evening, March 11th, 2014. We're broadcasting from Studio C here in beautiful downtown Merced. We got Steve Colvard on the controls, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti there with the paper, and I'm Casey Steed. I know I've been talking a little too much, folks. I get all wound up on Tuesday because I'm all bound up from the weekend, and I've been researching things, and I don't mean to dominate the conversation or take away from my two co-hosts, but I did want to mention that the last Friday was the 20th anniversary of 3 Strikes. We probably remember 3 Strikes. It was
Has it worked?
A deal done by Mike Reynolds. His daughter, 18-year-old Kimber, was killed in June of 1992 by a couple of turds there in Fresno. She had a purse snatch. She didn't want to give it up. These guys killed her. They shot her. And the poster child was a guy named Doug Walker. He's 49 years old now. Well, guess who was just arrested again after being released on probation last November? Doug Walker. He got 9 years the first time. They dropped it down to 4.5. He later violated. He was in and out of prison. They had a chance to put him away for life when he stole a tool chest in 2003, but the judge gave him another chance, put him on low-level supervision, what we fondly call AB 109. I think it was a complete failure, but, it kind of ties in. I don't know if folks saw about the Rivera killing over there at Atwater State Penitentiary. His murderer is getting life instead of the death penalty because of a perceived lack of dysfunctional in his family and his mental capability, saying poverty, in his family. Well, poverty is no excuse to kill somebody. Rivera was a 22-year-old Navy veteran. His uncle said, "This is a slap in the face to my nephew."
Casey.
His mother said it's like slapping him on the hand.
Go ahead, Robert.
Case, my question to you is, I don't know, maybe I'm being callous, but I'm watching that some of these convicted felons, they get out of jail because, we feel sorry for them and all this stuff. And it just doesn't seem like they get any better. Every time I watch anything about jail or that kind of stuff they have on HBO, some nights, they go from one to another, and they just tell you that these people just get worse in jail instead of getting better. And they don't get rehabilitated. They just hone their craft more. Do you see that to be true, or are you one of those?
I do see it to be true. It's very interesting that the state, as you know, we read in the paper that they're mandated to reduce the prison population because of overcrowding. And unfortunately, the counties aren't playing along because we're getting more of these turds in our community that are recommitting second and third felonies, and we're sending them back to the prison system, and that's not what Governor Brown wants.
Well,
Merced County, Larry has gone from sending 23 people last year, second strikers, to 79 to the state. Now, guess what county rhymes with San Francisco has not sent anybody back to the state last year? Okay? Now,
you lost me. What rhymes with San Francisco other than San Francisco?
That's what I'm saying. In other words, how would you feel if you're a resident of San Francisco, a crime victim in San Francisco, knowing that the political parties and winds up there refuse to protect you by sending these violent felons back to the state? Instead, they want to rehabilitate them, think that if they teach them basket weaving, they're suddenly going to be great. AB 109 is a failure, folks, an absolute failure.
But here's what I don't understand, Case. You're a convicted felon, okay? You're a rapist, you're a murderer, whatever the hell, okay? How is it that the government can say you got to release those people? Here's what I don't understand, and just maybe, is everything all nuts? I mean, if this happened years ago, there would be a total revolution. Now let me get this straight. You're in San Francisco, okay, and they don't prosecute, okay. Then what happens is the law tells you, the common citizen, that you have to have in your neighborhood 3 convicted felons because we have no room at the inn, so you're going to house them next to you, and you're going to have to live with these people. How in the hell does that work?
That's what they're saying. Mike Reynolds, the father of Kimber, who he was so incensed that this particular person, Douglas Walker, the other guy was killed by the police when they tried to apprehend him. But
Good.
Douglas Walker, he only got 9 years for the murder of his daughter. He was upset. And this guy had a record going back since he was 13. And this is why poverty is important to eradicate. This is why our supervisors, it all has a nexus, folks. We use these things as excuses let people murder our citizens. That's wrong. Like Robert said, is it crazy?
It's crazy because
they said that the prison population would double in 5 years. In actuality, the crime rate dropped.
Oh. What I have a problem with is, and I don't know, this is just me, but I'm getting tired of irresponsibility. I'm getting tired of standing in line behind people and I didn't know. It's like, you know what? You need to know. You need to have a sense of purpose in life, and you need to get off your ass and learn what you're doing and pay attention to what you're doing. It incenses me when I'm sitting there at Starbucks behind 2 girls text messaging each other, okay, while they hold up the line. Okay, it's the same thing with the police. It's the same thing with all this stuff. I didn't know he was poor. It's a reason. My daddy didn't hug me enough. We didn't hide enough Easter eggs during Easter. I'm getting tired of the excuses.
Well, and that's right, Robert. You and I grew up, and Steve did too, at a different time.
Steve,
but when they held down Jose Rivera
still in the process.
in that cell block, they stabbed him with a 9-inch ice pick, not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times,
32?
not 10 times, not 20 times. They stabbed him 27 times, a 3-minute attack. And his defense is, I was raised in a poor and dysfunctional home, and so we're going to let him off the hook. What does that tell the victims? We always forget the victims. And I just think it's so unfair.
Well, I'm warning you ahead of time. Hey, I'm warning you ahead of time. Okay? And I tell my friends this, and this is God's honest truth. And I don't think I'm going to be a violent one, but if I become terminally ill, I will be a vigilante. I am not lying. I am going to, when I see girls at Starbucks playing on her cell phone, you're too stupid to have a cell phone, and grab it from them. Okay? When I see stuff like that, I'm warning you ahead of time. What are they going to do? I'm going to be dead in 6 weeks or whatever the amount of time is, okay? But I am just getting tired of going to the post office and standing behind people, okay, that need, you know what I did the other day? I'm going to tell you what I did the other day. I got on the AT&T's phone. I had a problem with AT&T, so I called AT&T, and it says, this incenses me. If you want to continue in English, press 1.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
why wouldn't I want to continue in English? I'm in America.
But guess what? I pressed 2, and it was fun. And I got my iced tea out and put my feet on my desk, and the guy's going, but in Spanish. And I'm going, no hablo españolo. I speak English. And you had to hear, I'm laughing and giggling, and I'm having a good old time. I'm like, you know what? And I set the tone.
I have a confession, Robert. I do the same thing when I go here to the local Walmart. And I go through the self-checkout. You see a lot of these self-checkout stands.
And they call somebody to help you.
They have the option English or Spanish. I always press Spanish. And inevitably, everybody turns and looks at me because it's rattling off and and it's just hilarious. Wait
a minute, why do they have that in
Well, can I give you guys can I give you guys a sobering statistic?
Sobering?
Yeah.
Sobering. In 1960, the United States was 83% Caucasian.
Yes.
In 2060, it's going to be 43% Caucasian.
Yes.
So I don't have a problem with that because we're the great melting pot.
I don't have a problem with that either.
Steve, whether you're 43% or 83%,
what I have a problem with,
all Americans.
What I have a problem with is when
the citizenship test in this country, you have to know American history
in English. In English. They give you the test in English. So when you got these citizens that go blah, 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 in whatever country, in whatever dialect they want to do it in, whatever their home country is, I ask, are you a citizen? Then speak in English. Okay?
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, I have a friend of mine that has a store, and a lady called in, and she spoke Spanish. And I got to the bottom of this real quick. And he told me, and it absolutely is true. The lady calls in, and she speaks Spanish. And he says, well, excuse me, but I don't understand Spanish. Can you please speak in English? And she started talking English. She goes, you speak English very well. She goes, yeah, I know, but it's easier for me to speak in Spanish. And he goes, well, it's easier for me to speak in Mandarin Chinese. So how about if we split the difference and we'll talk in English?
Yeah. It's just, and that's to juxtapose that to the political scenario is that's the times that are changing is the demographics of this country are changing.
The demographics mean nothing, Steve. It's money. Let me tell you.
But it's a voting strategy that you have to have in order to get yourself in office. The Democrats are on top of that.
Yes.
They know them. They're crafting messages that are appealing to the immigrants.
Oh, not only that, but John Pedroza, what did he do? He had a Spanish-speaking girl, so he could do what? He could get the vote in La Grande, predominant Spanish, pulling out a predominant Spanish, because he didn't know Spanish. Is that smart? Absolutely. Was it dumb? Yes, because he picked the wrong person. Should have picked us.
Well, it's called pandering to me, folks. And, one other thing that's in the news is there was enough signatures, there's a petition to stop high-speed rail, letting the first segment go ahead, but stopping any other funding. I would encourage people to read that petition and sign it if you feel so inclined.
Hey.
They need about 500,000 signatures to get it on the ballot this November.
You know what I heard real quick? Did you know that Texas is going to propose a high-speed rail? Texas is proposing a high-speed rail from Dallas, Texas to Houston, Texas at a total cost of $6 billion. Ours is almost $100 billion, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
No, it's very disappointing. And, there are some corridors that make sense. And I'm for high-speed rail in California. If it ran down the median of Interstate 5 or along the 5 right-of-way, it was supposed to be from bay to basin, not stop at every wide spot in the road down the valley. People are using this for their own political gain.
It's the only way you can sell it.
Yeah, but you know what? I got an idea. Why don't they go from San Francisco to Catalina Island, build a big old bridge for $100 billion?
I got a better idea. Why don't they make the hub in Merced?
Yeah,
and we'll just start from here. We'll get the maintenance hub here. We'll get the. This will be Grand. This will be Grand Central Station, Merced, California.
Grand Central.
How about that?
Well, it would be interesting to see. It's funny,
we're in the middle of nowhere.
The proposition, they say there will be no station in Gilroy. You know why? Because part of the people that were writing this proposition, or that were in the first phases of high-speed rail, bought property in Gilroy, and they saw that, and they decided, hey, we don't want to give these folks any favoritism. So,
well, if they didn't already,
the whole thing is being gerrymandered. The whole thing is being rigged. It's a play to the unions and organized labor. It's not about what's a good transportation system. If I hear one more time it's about jobs, I'm going to throw up. It's not about jobs.
It's about jobs.
It's a transportation system, folks. It's not, obviously people will be employed. It's supposed to operate with no subsidies. It was supposed to be so easy for them to just rewrite the business plan. How come they haven't done that? Instead,
and the bottom line is, even the Democratic Party is starting to question this. And
Gavin Newsom.
Yep, absolutely.
Gavin Newsom is at odds with Jerry Brown, his boss, because of high-speed rail. He says we should put money in other areas, dams, infrastructure, things that are going to have a more unique quicker payoff. They want to use cap and trade money from this AB 32 carbon sales. They're supposed to reduce the greenhouse emissions by 2020.
Okay, wait.
In 6 short years. They're not even going to have the railroad done until 2022.
Okay, wait, real quick, Case. I'm looking at the paper I was reading this as you were talking. It says up for bid is a second stretch of rail line. Do you know that the 5 companies is a subsidiary of a Spanish company? Another one's a subsidiary of a Spanish company out of Spain. Another one's a subsidiary of Samsung Corporation. And another one is a subsidiary of Sweden Skanska. So who's getting these jobs if these contractors are from foreign countries?
Well, who's going to build the trains is a question. We really don't have a high-speed train manufacturer. Siemens in Germany is talking about coming over and setting up shop so they can comply with the Made in America motto or logo, whatever.
Where the profits going?
I just really think this project has become so perverted. We need to take it back to square one, and signing this petition will do that.
Are you still standing by your pronunciation of death for this high-speed rail?
Yeah, another nail in the coffin was last Friday. Judge Kenny said that the plaintiffs in Kings County, had legal standing to go ahead with their lawsuit challenging the 2 hour, 40-minute ride from San Francisco to L.A. It can't be done, folks. They're talking about this blended system down the peninsula where they're going to use Caltrain and BART, and then over in L.A. you're going to switch to Metrolink. It just cannot be done. The judge understands that. He
so basically,
standing,
it's a lie.
In the HSR coffin.
And basically, what the judge is saying in kind of general terms is this is not what the voters approved. Right. I mean, is that what it comes down to?
So because they went to the blended plan, you have to realize that not everybody's on high-speed rail. When you go up to Palo Alto, those people hate it. They don't want it. They want it out of there. They have Caltrain. They're perfectly happy with that. So to placate them, they said, we're going to electrify Caltrain because the HSR thing says it will run on electricity. Who cares how much it'll cost? It's got to run on electricity. It's got to be green, folks. Remember, everything green is dollars. Okay?
That's right.
I say all energy is green because it's how much you want to pay for it.
Why can't we get any of those greens? Case, we're out of time, brother. Take us home.
Well, folks, thanks for listening to the Tuesday edition of Citizen Watch with Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti. I'm Casey Steed. We encourage you to tune in next Thursday when we'll have another exciting edition. I won't talk so much, and we'll continue this public forum and discussion. And, Robert, how do we leave every week?
Adios. Since we're in Mexico, since we're in California. Adios, senor and senoras.
All right. Goodbye, folks.